Hawa. Hey, much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. How you guys doing this Friday? Hope everybody's doing well. Today, I just wanted to read a little bit to you guys. I didn't have time to record and edit and all that. I'm not, you know, I actually went through a little surgery today, guys. Believe it or not, they removed the cyst I had in my arm. And I'm in a little pain right now, but it's all good. This helps me distract me from the pain. I love reading to you guys, and I don't got time to edit and record, so we're gonna do it live. All right, we're gonna do it live. All right, just waiting for the people to come, so we don't leave anybody behind. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Robin Dre Beats, my boy Warshi Red Lion for the beat that's playing right now. I also wanna shout out some of the other producers. You might hear their music today. We got Gerald Collins. Thanks for the beats. Miko Saga. All right. Thanks for the beats, brother. We got Ocelot Olmec. Thanks for the beats, man. We also got, from previous videos, just want to shout out Antonio Jackson, Maniacs Beats. We got Viso Breeze, of course. We're going to hear his beats today. Alman Deliman. Thank you, man. And Joseph Levels, some of the producers that have sent me some of the music. If you have sent me music before and I haven't shutting you out, it's not because I don't care. It's because I can't remember right now. But make sure you like and share as you come in, guys. I hope you guys can hear me good. And I hope, let me know if at any point the music is too loud, louder than what my voice, let me know so I can put it down. It's hard to tell because, I can't really tell from my end. But welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in again. Oh, wow, yeah. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you guys enjoying the videos. Been trying to stay productive. There's a lot of info that I want to put out. Sometimes I don't have the time, so these shorter videos kind of helps me put the video out a little quicker sometimes. And but today we're gonna read a little bit, All right, we're gonna get back to a book we've been reading. Let me go to it right now. Yeah, welcome. Let's just go to my Kindle library. I got a deep Kindle library. Trust me, man. I got a lot of books here that I haven't read to you guys. Really good ones. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Much love and respect. Just want to say, if you just arrived, try to be respectful today, guys. We don't want none of distractions on the chat. We don't want, you can give your opinion, that's no problem. But when you start getting disrespectful and just pushing your ideologies on people in the chat and not paying attention to the presentation, moderators are going to deal with you. I'll deal with you myself. And also to the moderators, just be very cautious and of who you're timing out and everything, and try to make sure, give people a chance, respond to them. If they continue, just go ahead and time them out or just hide them from a channel if they get really disrespectful. We don't got time for that. We're here to build. We're here to unite. We're here to learn. We're all learning. I appreciate everybody in the chat. There's so many people already. All right, so whoever's not here, hey, you're gonna have to watch the replay. We're gonna get started, guys. And this is the book we're gonna get into first. We actually got into this book. It's from Jack D. Forbes. Pretty good author. We've read a lot of his books, really good books. And this book is called The American Discovery of Europe. All right, The American Discovery of Europe. Yeah, shout out to the producers for the music. So we've actually read some of these books. Some of these chapters already. The first couple chapters. We're gonna go into chapter 5 today. And this is the chapter right here, From Iberia to the Baltic, Americans in Roman and pre-modern Europe. This is one book we're going to read today. And we'll get into another book, great book I just bought. I had to buy the physical copy because it's not online anywhere. It wasn't cheap, pretty expensive book, but it's a great book. A lot of good information and research. The author did her job. I'll show you guys which one I'm talking about later on. All right, so we're on chapter 5 of this book. Again, The American Discovery of Europe by Jack D. Forbes. Again, let me know if the music at any point gets too loud, and I'll put it down, guys. It says here, many American nations have traditions pointing towards animals as teachers of human beings. And it is certain that the ancient Americans learned much from carefully, consistently observing the lessons offered by the natural world and its living children. Indigenous Americans often seem to have made it a major part of their lives to watch the animals, the birds, and other living things in order to learn their secrets, in order to understand the patterns of their behavior. I believe that we can be absolutely sure that Americans of old, putting out in boats into the waters of the Caribbean, of the mouth of the Amazon, in the Florida Straits, or in the Gulf streams farther north, would have studied the moving rivers with infinite care, would have in fact mapped out the precise movements of the currents and winds with extreme exactitude, and certainly would have observed the onward traveling of huge numbers of logs, branches, debris, and what is more important still, the behavior of animals in the streams. All right, so what he's letting you know is, of course, we knew about the Gulf Stream and the ocean currents. People notice things, observation, many years. That's what science is, right? Observation and hypothesis and seeing, experimenting, right? So ancient Americans did that. They noticed that things got caught in streams, that things were brought from other places. And, eventually they probably started following those Gulf streams and currents and ending up in different places in the world. And we've already read, before I continue, just real quick, remind everybody, these are the videos we've read on the other chapters before. We talked about the streams, how it's actually one of the strongest, and actually, I think it's the actual strongest current in the world is the Gulf Stream. I think we've read that before. You can look it up. It's actually much easier to travel from the Americas over to Europe and that side than vice versa. We've gone over this. You can study this. All right. So make sure. And remember, guys, I'm live. So, it's not going to be perfect today. All right. We're surfing the wave live. Shout out to Drop Nation, Con Drop, and everybody that's out there showing the love. All right, this is one of the videos again that we've gone over. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure to do that. This is the other one. All right, Navigators of the Ancient World, Stone Fears of Costa Rica, American Atlantis, Discovery of Europe. All right, and then the other one we got Seagoing Americans, Warrior Merchants, Vast Strait Empire, Timucua are the Warao of South America. All right, yeah. Did you guys know that Timucua and the Warao language are 75% of it is exactly the same? We're going to actually make a separate video on that in the future. I'm already doing the research. All right. So welcome. All right, make sure to check out these videos. We read the previous chapters in these videos if you missed that. Also, this is another video we've gone over, part 18, Untold Asian American Truth, a great series. I mean, we can have so many parts of this, really, so I try to keep it going sometimes, but it's a great series. We actually went over the Old World script and petroglyphs that are found throughout America here. Some of the references, not all of them, obviously, because there's so many, but this is a good video to also check out because the work of Barry Fell, America BC, is mentioned in this video, and they're going to mention that today in the next book we're going to read. The author actually worked with Barry Fell to do her own book and in her own research investigations to help her, write the book. So make sure to check that out. And, I just have, there's so many videos. Again, over 400 presentations, guys. And guys and girls, all right, I got in trouble one day. Somebody say, why you only say guys? I'm just saying, I shouldn't even say guys, right? Like, you, you know what I mean. So we got a lot of videos, or a lot of people that just come with their opinions and their, indoctrinations, their assumptions, their conjectures. There's over 400 presentations here for you to take the time to verify the information. If you haven't, my Danite videos, who are the Danites, where is Canaan, my Phoenician videos. I mean, you got so many videos proving that we were navigating anciently from America. Okay. Yeah, these weren't just little canoes. Because if you guys really think about like the Viking and Phoenician ships, those were like literally canoes, and we got references, many already, of Columbus and other people stating what they saw here, the ships and everything, how they had sails and everything. All right, so make sure to check out and catch up if you can. Take the time, no rush, just like you make time for anything else. I'm not just one of those YouTubers that make quick videos and just so I can get the views and keep a revenue going. I like to really put out videos that are going to impact people and that you can verify the information, and you can take your time with. Is I'm not rushing it. And so, yeah, primary sources, anthropology, historical records, genealogy, ethnology, archaeology, philology. Philology is very important. We haven't really delved into that too much, but we're gonna really get into that. But we had to go over a lot of these videos first to understand that. And it's all gonna make sense when we start getting into the philology, meaning how languages travel and people travel with that language all around the world, and how different people, different nations in the world, they kind of have the same language and dialect and not their neighbors. They're more closer to some people in dialect from other continents than the people who live near them. So that shows you some kind of relationship there, or network or connection there anciently. All right. So again, welcome. Let's go back to the book and keep reading. All right. So what were you saying? That ancient Americans were noticing things about the ocean, watching the animals too and everything. And they noticed that there was sea currents, The logs and the animals, such as the marine turtles of America, were clearly going somewhere, but where? And for the people in the Amazon Caribbean region, it was obvious that floating things were also arriving from, oh, sorry guys. All right, we live. The east, all right, they were arriving also. We weren't just going. You just got here. All right, if you just got here, don't worry, we just started. We're just on the second page here. All right. So they saw things going and things coming in, right? That's what they were observing. And especially when they observed the turtles, right? The turtles, just like in the movie Nemo, how they were riding the currents, right? The turtles, right? So they noticed that. Turtle Island, right? Certainly there were rivers in the oceans that formed great circles and going and returning. But the turtles of American waters are especially important, particularly the great leathery turtle. One was washed ashore at Harlech, North Wales in 1988, weighing 2,106 pounds and measuring about 10 feet in length and 9 feet across the span of its front flippers. In point of fact, it is very rewarding to look at the behavior of American marine turtles, because their movements going back millions of years provide a ready guide for watchful human hunters and sailors. There is absolutely no doubt that American turtles followed the Gulf Stream to Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly, and Devonshire's coast, as well as on occasion to Iceland, Norway, and in one case at least to Murmansk. They may have even returned to the American tropics, as will be discussed below. The earliest European drawing of an American turtle is from the 1100s. E. Charles Nelson, who has written about drift seats, knows that a churchyard slate of the 12th century in Cornwall, Tintagel Island, has a vivid thumbnail sketch of a common loggerhead turtle. These animals, natives of the American coast, are frequently stranded on Cornish shores. 5 species of turtles have been reported from British waters in modern post 1700 times. They are the leathery, the common loggerhead, Kemp's Ridley, the green, and hawksbill, very rare. The first three are the most common. The leathery nests primarily in Guyana, South America, but also along East Florida. Leatheries are seen often of Northeast America, Connecticut to Newfoundland, where they feed on jellyfish in waters up to 15 Celsius colder than those in which they nest in Florida. The turtle's temperature may be as much as 18 Celsius warmer than the surrounding water. In 1958, a leathery was seen off Norway at 69 degrees 18 north, and another off northern Iceland in 1963. A common loggerhead was caught in a fishing line off Murmansk in 1964. The powerful leathery turtle may well have the stamina to return south. R.D. Penn Hallwig tells us that the circulation of the oceans makes it unlikely that turtles of any species from the Mediterranean or West Africa would reach British shores. All right? As this would entail swimming for hundreds of miles against the prevailing currents. All right, guys? He goes on to inform us that evidence from other organisms, some the food of leathery turtles, as from inanimate objects, all point to the West Indies and the northern shore of South America as the origin of turtles stranded on British and Irish shores. All right. So again, I'm reading right now, so it's hard to look at the chat, guys. We're live, and I can't answer questions in the chat. If you have any questions that have nothing to do with what we're talking about today, I do recommend, and I'm not trying to be rude, to catch up on the presentations. And when we're talking about any time before the 1800s, most likely and most definitely we're more likely talking about Swarthy, or so-called black Europeans. Yes, we've proven that. All right. Continuing. As recently as December 1986, a speedboat turned up at St. Ives, in all probability from the southern United States. Penhallwig also reviews the evidence supplied by Charles Nelson and others relative to the drift seats and other American items that turn up on the coast of Cornwall, Western Ireland, and Scotland. Indeed, the earliest European reference, all right, to, hold on, sorry, to them comes from Cornwall, where they were collected by Dame Catherine Killigrew before 1570, who said that the faith of the Cornish folks was that they drifted from the New World because of the winds. Most of the seeds turn up on the north coast of Cornwall and in the Isles of Scilly, as many as 24 species being represented. All right, seeds from America. Seeds from America. The huge leathery turtles, incidentally, often could be seen traveling or floating on the surface of the water, as were 3 seen together on 2 occasions off the southwest coast of Cornwall in 1967 by a British trawler's crew. They are accompanied apparently by pilotfish, Nocrates ductor, which have been seen with them off of both Cornwall and Norway. Loggerhead turtles also reach European Atlantic waters after nesting along the Georgia and Florida coast, in the dry Tortugas, and along the Mexican coast. Loggerheads reach 300 pounds or more, but those reached in Britain are usually juveniles or subadults, who reportedly, when just hatched, make rapidly for the warm Gulf Stream waters. The specimens reaching European Atlantic shores are probably of American origin. Indeed, some have been washed ashore, as in Cornwall in 1938, in company with Kemp's Ridley, which cannot have come from anywhere else. Hawksbill turtles from Guyana Guyana and the Caribbean region are rarer in British waters, but in 1867, one was recorded in the English Channel, and in 1983, a 280-pound one was netted off a Cork island. Sorry, Ireland. I said island. The discovery of Europe by American marine turtles. All right, so it was the turtles who discovered Europe first, all right, on Turtle Island. I believe of great significance, especially as we look to the meeting of classical America. It seems beyond doubt that American seafarers, especially from turtle watching regions, would have noted the traveling patterns of the turtles, especially since they surface frequently and are of huge enough size to be followed day after day. Turtle following, as well as other maritime activities, undoubtedly took many mariners far and far out to sea. But I would suggest that there would often be the curious few who would pursue the turtle's watery path all the way to Europe, and then perhaps to return along the same path to America, once again, following its southern, southwestern, and western arcs. All right, we've shown the currents, how they return right back to America. The ones that brings you right from the Caribbean, South America into Europe, it loops back around into South America. A study has shown that Florida-born loggerhead turtles can navigate across the Atlantic and return to American waters using a subtle signal of Earth's magnetic field. The signals help baby loggerheads to stay within the circular ocean currents of warm water, moving clockwise from America to Europe and then back again via the coast of Spain and Northwest Africa, then turning west to complete the circle. This turtle migration path is some 8,000 miles in length. It is not possible that Americans were able to learn of this phenomenon and how to use it to their advantage navigationally. Huh? Isn't it possible? Couldn't they have done that? Passing from turtle travel to human movement, it has been suggested that clay figurines and other arts of Mexico contain images suggestive of European, Semitic, African, dodge the hijack. They mean when you look like what you're supposed to, what a supposed Negro only looks like. So when they're, we got to dodge the hijack when we read these books, right? We already know. And Asiatic features, right? If so, then we might be looking at very concrete evidence that Americans not only visited Europe and Africa, but brought back mental images that they were able to share with their country, women or men. This possibility is strengthened by the alleged Roman-like head found in Mastlacinca, Calixta, Huaca, Wakanda, Waka, pyramid, and by an alleged Hebrew or other Semitic inscription found in Cherokee area cave on the burials and dated in the 2nd century also. All right, so again, we got to keep dodging the hijack because he's saying just because he's finding these old world things over here that they had to have come from the other side. But remember, America is the true old world. All right, that's why they're finding all this stuff here. The alleged Roman type terracotta head has recently been dated by thermoluminescent age tests with a date of 215 AD to plus 400 years. This is rather interesting because it makes the terracotta roughly the same age as a bronze head of American with a question mark. A bronze head now housed in the Louvre in Paris. And all right, so real quick, guys. All right, let's go back somewhere. All right, so we recently did a video where I just wanted to show the actual primary source of what he was talking about right now. And it's this one right here. American Indians shipwrecked in Roman Germany, 60 BC, guys. That's when it was. All right. We have a reference of the so-called Romans writing about American Indians arriving in their shores. All right. So I didn't know at the time when I was doing that, when I saw the reference, that he actually had the actual picture of the statue. We're going to see that today. All right. Let's go back. So this is correlation for that video. What a provocative title of video. Yeah, don't, well, it's provocative when they call you descendants of apes. That's more provocative. Yeah, when they say you come out of apes and all this other stuff, and that Columbus discovered America, that's very provocative. Like there wasn't any people here. How do you discover a place where there's already people? All right, all right. So if you come here, come in peace. Let's not troll, or you will get dealt with. All right. So let's continue. He's talking about a bronze head that is possibly American. Now housed in the Louvre in Paris, the Louvre Museum. In any case, the head seems to have been found in either Mount 5 or Mount 6 at Kalisklat in the 1930s. It was found with pottery of the 1476-1510 period above a 12th century level as part of a burial offering. Scholars involved in the latest analysis of the Cabecita de Barro suggest that the Mastlacincas, as allies of the Aztecs, participated in two war expeditions between 1440 and 1469. One to the coastal area of the Huastecas, from which they returned with a rich booty. Thus, they might have acquired the head from the Huastecas, who presumably might have held it for a millennium or more. Of course, a number of ifs remain in the story, but nonetheless, it does suggest an American Huasteca voyage to the European area, Gaul, Iberia. Who is the Gauls? Who's the Iberians? And a return voyage to the Gulf of Mexico. The authors of the latest report, Romeo Histroff and Santiago Genoves, expressed the normal Eurocentric idea of a Mediterranean vessel being swept away from the Canary Islands, Madeira, or Cape Verde to the American coast. All right, that's a Eurocentric idea. Got dodged to hide there. On the other hand, let us emphasize that while we have quite a number of references to Americans reaching Europe to be discussed, we have absolutely no references to Europeans reaching America by any route prior to the Norse navigation. All right, prior to the Vikings. Given the extent of Roman, Greek, Carthaginian, and other historical sources, and given the existence of numerous geographies written by people such as Pliny, Strabo, Pomponius Mela, I think that we can say that the ball is in America's court and not in Europe's, okay? When you really start doing the research, verifying history, these old records, you're gonna see there's more reports of people watching the shore from America and Europe. So the ball is in America's court, not Europe. I am, of course, not arguing against the theoretical possibility of a Roman drift voyage, but I am saying that when we find terracottas, coins, or other relics of supposed European origin in America, we must give primacy to American agency, not European. Not Europeans coming over here. You understand? Just because you find Shemitic or something that looks Roman or something that looks like a Greek or something that looks like whatever you think is European or from another part of the world, Hindu or whatever you want to call it, Phoenician, don't just think automatically that there's people that came from another part. This is the true old world. He's saying it in a different way. European or Euro-American writers almost always see such items as evidence of European or Semitic voyages to America. But given what we know now about American seafaring, all right, guys, given what we have learned, right, in the last couple videos, especially when we read his book and other books, we know Americans were navigating since ancient times. Given that knowledge that we have now, right, about American seafaring and cultural sophistication, it is much more likely that they are things seen by American travelers, images brought home after voyages and shared by means of art. So now he's kind of like adding his little opinion because he still thinks the old world is on the other side. So he's saying it doesn't mean people came. It could be that Americans went over there and just brought the images back with them But no, these were Americans. America's the true old world. But of course, not everyone will agree on their authenticity. In any case, given the long-term interests of some religious sects and nationalities in proving the truth of their own particular ideology, the Sultan intentional contamination of archaeological sites always remains a possibility, along with the misinterpretation of such items as clay heads with beards and other specific features. All right. So he pointed out something really good. So people find statues here with beards and all that. They automatically say, oh, that's Shemitic. We had beards here, guys. We had all types of hair. We had all types of phenotypes. We had every shade of copper complexion, from the lightest copper complexion to the darkest so-called black, right? Copper complexion. So you got to dodge your own hijacks. People are intentionally contaminating archaeological sites. Nonetheless, I will argue that we must accept the probability of American agency, and that the art pieces must be viewed as a kind of photographic record of indigenous travels. In Peru, a woven cotton textile of alleged pre-Columbian origin depicts persons riding on horseback, something clearly to be seen in Europe or Asia, but not in pre-1492 America. All right, dodge the hijack big time right there. You know, I want to tell you guys, especially for those who've been following me for a while, horses originated in America and they went into Asia. We've proven that. You can Google that right now. All right. And we have writings of the Spanish seeing horses here when they got here. We've done a video on that, actually, guys. So if you haven't seen it, make sure to catch up. All right. So again, he's going with the whole everybody came out of that part of the world over there still, even though he's finding undeniable proof that Americans were navigating all over the world. You know, so he's trying to explain why there would be all these features and all this stuff over here. You know, and he's saying, well, they brought it back. No, it's been here. It's from here. All right, horses are from here. Since one cannot imagine a European or Asian producing Andean cloth, one must assume that an American made the textile with this illustration, thus indicating a visit to Europe. Again, not necessarily, guys. We had horses here, Africa or Asia, and returned to Peru, provided, of course, that the tejido or the sewing has been properly dated. Indeed, the section of the cloth depicting horses is rather non-Andean in appearance and suggests a post-Spanish conquest date. All right. So real quick, I just want to read the chat real quick. Make sure everybody's, just chilling. All right. So, make sure if you're off topic and people just keep talking off topic and talking about other channels and things that are not related, yeah, just get them out, time them out, get them out of here. We're not here to talk about your personal things right now. Okay. And I'm being serious. Like, let's pay attention. I actually like uploading the videos. I don't like going live for this reason, because people tend to get lost in the chat. I'm not like any other YouTubers where people just talk, and they just let them talk and nobody's really paying attention in the chat. I notice it a lot in other channels, so if you want to have input on what we're talking about, that's great. That's great. If you're talking about something that has not related, you're just going to distract people. You're going to create conversations. People are going to be distracted. And then issues start coming up. People start arguing. People start saying, no, I know more than this. I know that, all this stuff, man, when we're reading a book. Okay. And I know you guys are listening, the real ones. Hey, I love y'all, man. Thanks for tuning in, man. Hope you're having a great Friday. All right. I'm in pain a little bit right here. I don't take pain medication. I had a little surgery today. So this helps me kind of get my mind off it. All right. We're going to continue reading now. All right. Where were we? I lost my place. As regard the clay heads in Mexico that are alleged to depict Africans, alleged, right? They're talking about phenotypes. They're not talking about they actually prove that somebody came here from a ship, an actual African, and came and built a city in Mexico. They're just saying that like the old school scholars, so-called scholars, like before Columbus, like the Ivan van Sertima and all that. Their whole proof. All right, guys, I actually lost. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'll be right back. My mouse died, my battery. I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna go get my other mouse. You guys chill for a little bit. All right, I'm back, guys. I'm back. I got my wired mouse, bringing it the old school way. Here we go. 1 second. All right, all right. Yeah, don't worry, guys. I'm taking my natural medication. Trust that. Trust that. That's all I do. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Now I can move things around. Okay. Hey, one love, one love. Thanks for tuning in. We just reading this book. We're talking about the ancient navigators of America. Okay. All right. So they're talking about this clay head in Mexico that supposedly depicts Africans. They're just talking about phenotypes, right? Europeans. They're talking about phenotypes and Asiatics, right? So we had all those phenotypes here. Again, America's a true old world. Donald Cordry, an authority on Mexican masks, has stated any attempt to date a mask becomes an extremely questionable estimate. The inability to date Mexican masks stems from a temporal ambiguity in Mexican culture, an ambiguity that is one of its essential characteristics and charms. It is not uncommon to find pre-conquest ideas and beliefs existing side by side with modern ones. He further notes that one of the more common methods of dating artwork is to use stylistic trends as criteria. However, the cultural diversity and complexity of Mexico precludes, all right, again, the cultural diversity and complexity of Mexico precludes the identification of traditional styles in any but the most general terms. Far too vague to base any estimate of a mass age upon the popularity of Negrito African masks in post conquest Mexico. All right. Yes, we had so called Negrito phenotypes in the pottery and the statues found throughout the Americas, and they're not Africans. We've already passed that. We passed the whole out of Africa theories. Got to get with the program eventually. Too much info out now. If you're not willing to verify and put in the work and you just want to be stuck on a belief because you're biased to that belief, because you just want it to be true, you want to be African, that's something else. There is no proof of any of that. Monkey bones, when they're talking about the oldest people in the world found in Africa, those are ape bones, guys. And this is not disrespecting anybody in Africa. I'm just telling you facts. These are not modern type humans. Lucy is an ape. Do you come from apes? No, right? You don't come from apes. So when you believe out of Africa theories, you believe in Darwinism because that's what they're using. That's what they're using. Another thing is, we already went over the, ancestry DNA test. That's entertainment purposes. Ancestry DNA tests help with finding relations, possible and people you're related to, historic people. That doesn't mean you descend from where they lived. You guys probably have a common ancestor. It could be anywhere in the world, like America. That doesn't mean, but I'm an ape. Oh man. All right. That doesn't mean that just because you match with somebody in Africa, and I'm gonna show you guys where they're getting these samples from. I actually, yeah, shout out to the Aboriginal Society of Canada, the brother. He sent me a great video. I'm going to show you where they actually got the samples from. And it wasn't Africa. It was from America, guys. They're using the samples for. That's why you match. Yeah, they've been tricking you this whole time. All right. And then the next proof is the movie Roots, right? That's not proof. That's a movie. It's fictionalized. He plagiarized a fictional book and he got sued for it. So those are your three truths right there. And then people try to use Pangea, like, something that's in theory was millions of years ago, right? To make it a case that we're all African, and not sure why they always decide to be biased and put the origin, even if it was Pangea, together. Why did it have to be on the side of Africa that everything started? When we got so much proof of agriculture starting here, civilization, the oldest fossils, the oldest land, the oldest water, so many things. Mammals coming out here, carnivores, like so many things. And you still talking about Pangea, man. All right. So let's continue. Where were we? All right. So we're talking about the Negrito mask, right? So he's going over some things they finding over here, these different phenotypes in the ancient pre-Columbian America. All right. So, along with common production of masks with European features, raises many questions about the dating of alleged pre-Columbian figurines. Perhaps only a chemical analysis can actually date such materials. The use of art to support pre-Columbian contact. Hold on, guys. I'm just reading. No, Roots is a fake story, man. Check out my slavery stories and catch up videos and catch up to the presentations we got. We already debunked all that stuff. Again, let go. If you're here to give opinions without doing research, you're just looking bad. Henry Gates already told you. Shout out to the real ones in the chat. All right. I'm sorry to keep interrupting the reading, guys, because it's distracting when I look at the chat and I see like all this conjecture and all that stuff, man. Now, the use of art to support pre-Columbian contacts can also be extended to American arrivals in Europe and the Mediterranean. For example, I possess a photograph of the figure of an Egyptian man of Tétésalt from the 14th siècle avant. Oh, that's BC. I think that's 14th century BC. All right, here we go. Some parents, yeah. Well, I know a little French, I can read it, which decidedly resembles an American. From the 14th century BC, that resembles an American. He's supposed to be Egyptian. Well, check this out. Shout out to UBTV, Drop, and everybody else who's teaching this. America, ancient Egypt was here. We're not talking about the word Egypt. We're talking about the land, right? The people they talk about in these ancient stories. When we're talking about the Nile, Mississippi, all that stuff, man. Like, that was all here. Yeah, where's Little Egypt? Where's Little Egypt? Illinois, right? So this so-called Egyptian resembles an American from the 14th century BC, which decided the carved or ceramic figure has high cheekbones, large almond eyes, and a prominent nose. Oh, prominent nose. Such a figure could be completely ignored, I suppose, except that John T.C. Heaviside argued many years ago, 1868, that Americans had influenced ancient Egypt. All right, we gone over the info already, guys. Where did the pre-Egyptians, right? Who's the ancestors of the so-called Egyptians? And who influenced them? Many people have already talked about it, as he just said, just like John T.C. Heaviside. We got to get into him. I don't even know him. We're going to get into his books. All right, this is how you find books. So I'm going to look for John T.C. Heaviside writings, see what we find for future videos. All right. So hold on, guys. Again, we're live. All right. We live. We're surfing the wave live. So he was saying that Americans had influenced ancient Egypt. And more recently, Stephen C. Jett has written about evidence of nicotine tobacco leaves being found in the cadavers of ancient Egyptian mummies. All right. So that's something that's kind of known now, well known now. I remember when I was young that they were talking about this. So you can see how old this book is, guys. So we are a little more updated with the research right now. We're a lot further in time, in chronology, and a lot of information has come out. We're able to get more information than before. Now that the internet's out and people can travel a lot easier now. So this is how old this book is. And he's saying recently they found, yeah, they had tobacco, and not only tobacco, cocaine, right? Cocaine and the mummies, so-called mummies of Egypt. Where did they really get those mummies from? So they found tobacco leaves being found in the cadavers of ancient Egyptian mummies. Tobacco's native to America, guys, such as that of Ramses II, millennium BC. All right, Ramses, huh? Where was ancient Egypt really? He had tobacco leaves. Did you guys know that? Samples of mummies at the Munich Egyptian Museum of ages from 1070 BC to 395. I'm sorry, CE. Wait, what is that? Oh yeah, BC to 395 AD were found to contain both nicotine and cocaine. Nicotine and cocaine. Jed also presents data suggesting that cocaine and nicotine have been found in mummies from parts of Europe and Nubia, as well as Egypt, all dating to ancient times. Since both nicotine and cocaine, appear to be of American origin, their appearance in Egyptian mummies suggests early trade and expeditions to the region from America. Again, from America. How else is that going to get over there? Let's be smart. Early contacts between America and Italy are also suggested by wall paintings uncovered in the Roman port city of Pompeii, a municipality covered over in an eruption of Mount Vesuvio on August 24th of 79. The painting includes a portrait of a husband and a wife. The man is very Mexican looking, with brownish skin. Brownish skin, high cheekbones, large semi-Asiatic eyes, and dark hair. He also has a very scanty mustache and very sparse beard, perhaps added later by a graffiti artist. He is definitely not Mediterranean in appearance. Although his wife appears Italian, he also does not remind one of a North African or Middle Easterner in general. Another mosaic from Vesuvius area around Pompeii appears to feature representations in color of a pineapple. All right. So these are all future videos we're going to show these sources and what they're talking about. We've shown representations of corn all over the ancient world, in the Hindu statues and in ancient China, in Europe, in Babylon, in ancient Egypt, hieroglyphics. Corn is all over there. We've shown that. Many corn videos. Make sure to catch up if you haven't checked those out. Those are great videos. All my corn videos. I love doing those videos. You learn so much just by following corn. It proves America's the true old world. We feed the world. Without corn, corn is literally what helped people settle down and become civilized. Agriculture. Corn was so easy to grow and it was exclusive to a certain people. All right. Now, apart from corn, they're finding, again, pineapples in Europe and Asia. That's all American. Red chili peppers, both American fruits, along with several lemons and a rooster or large hen. Again, these are all American animals. The banana or pineapple would have been from South America, while the peppers could have been from the Caribbean as well. Thus, again, we are justified in suggesting ancient American contact. The relationship of such possible journeys to the spread of syphilis will be discussed below. In the context of art, it is interesting that by the 19th century, scholars noticed that a Roman bronze house. All right, hold on. Music got a little loud. All right. So we're going to get into the bronze statue right now. Now, scholars noticed that this is from Roman times, a bronze statue housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris very much resembled an indigenous American. Now, this is not just him saying it. We actually read the primary source. all right, from France, stating that in French books we translated from the 1800s. And then we went and read the primary, the story and the quote stating that Americans had washed ashore in 60 BC in Roman times over there. So there's a lot of correlation and proof we've gone over. Help basically matching what he's saying right now. In connection with my research, I located the bronze and photographed it because it does indeed resemble a native of the Americas. It so happens that this bronze may well reflect an actual visit by Indians to northern Italy, and in all probability to Rome. In this case, the bronze probably does not represent a Roman visit to America, first, because of the navigational difficulties presented. Again, remember, the currents are stronger going that way. You don't really need paddles. You just put on your sail, get on the current, it'll bring you right into Europe. And if you miss the exit, you'll go right back. You go down the coast, Canary Islands, Cape Verde, and then you go right back into Brazil, South America, the Caribbean. All right. So there's a lot of things he's pointing out that you got to take into consideration that people never do. They just talking about Pangea. and we all from Africa, And second, because we have a specific record of Indians reaching Europe in the same period that the bronze was produced. And that's what he was talking about. So there's a bronze statue that was made during that time, and there's a reference of Americans being washed ashore in the same period. That's what we did a video on recently. Make sure to check that out. At the current time, the bronze in question is labeled vase en forme de tête. Lemme après j'ai l'aspect physique du personnage particulier marqué. It is from the collection Dinan, all right? This is the collection, if you guys are interested. The collection Dinan, 1825, in the Louvre Museum, all right? Let me see. Thus, a bust of an African woman, rather small, is located next to a vase or container in the form of a head, 2nd to 3rd century, with the physical aspect of the personage being particularly marked. In 1859, Professor Emil Eger argued that the Indians who had reached the Roman world in 60 BC, to be discussed below, were Caribs from America, all right? Caribs from America, all right? Hey, shout out Tone, welcome man. We don't got time, we got to stay building, we got to stay productive instead of arguing. You know what I'm talking about. Much love, thanks for coming through. When Caribs from America, other individuals of American race, all right? Caribs, they're saying it was Caribs. He also voiced the opinion that the ancient bronze head found in the galleries of the Louvre represented one of those Indians, and that it was a reproduction of a type of the American race. In 1868, the existence of the bronze was publicized in a catalog of ancient bronzes belonging to the Louvre. Another French authority also felt that the bronze resembled an American of the type portrayed by the art of George Catlin. Paul Gaffaro concludes, at the very first look, everything in this bronze makes us think of the red race of the New World. All right, we got the primary source, we read it. The skull is dolichocephalous, receding forehead, long and low ears, strongly arched brows, aquiline nose, big lips, round lower maxilla. The total impression is striking. Very well. This is the type of American, and of American of the United States. So that's his opinion. He's saying, no, it's not a Carib. It's actually from North America. So they're all saying it looks like an American. They don't know from where. They don't know what tribe. All right. But yeah, they like, hey, these look like the American Indians. Not everyone has agreed that the bronze represent an American of 60 BC. All right. So Gaffarel, 1882, said that it was a hazardous conjecture to assume that the bronze was of one of the Indians arriving in the 60s BC, even though he believed that it portrayed an American. So even though he said it's not one of those that came in 60 BC, but it is an American. All right. Either way, it's still American. Jeffrey Ashe also doubted the connection, believing that the bronze appeared more Roman than Red Indian. What is a Roman look? Where was the true ancient Rome? You know, we give Rome and Greece a lot of history. When we actually start going into the real chronology, guys, these are all future videos. You're going to see that a lot of the Roman and Greek history is kind of exaggerated, glorified, you know, and they didn't have, you know, who are the actual real Romans, the so-called Greeks. Things we're going to keep digging on and researching. And it's all going to lead to the real Rome. All the roads are going to lead to the real Rome. He described the object as a bucket, situla, in the form of a human head. The projection on top is the handle, and the cranium is hinged to open like a lid. It might possibly be a divining urn. William H. Tillingsdast, 1889, was aware of the bronze, but regarded its identification with an American as purely arbitrary. The association of the idea of a divining urn with a possible American head is intriguing, since it could indicate that as early as 2,000 years ago, the Romans began to associate mystical or spiritual matters with Native American or American Indians. Could it be that the American spiritual person reached Europe and became a practitioner there? Such a theory may seem far-fetched, but the dissemination of ideas, folktales, and other cultural traits often depends upon such strange arrivals in the various ages of world history. All right, so guys, this is what they're talking about right here. So this author actually went to the museum and took a picture of it. All right, now shout out to a good friend right here. He knows who he is. Was actually showing him the statue today, and you know, he said, "Hey, that looks like an Iroquois." And when he said that, I was like, you know what? That's very interesting, because I have a theory about the Iroquois, and I think it's more than a theory. And a lot of people have written about it. I've mentioned it many times. Who were the Iroquois and why do they look like Romans? I'm talking about the ancient Iroquois, how they were dressed and everything, and how they moved. When they write about the Iroquois, guys, they said they were referenced or called the Red Roman Empire. Like they were linked, they were compared to how the Romans invaded other people and tribes and colonized. That's how the Iroquois did. You know, who are the real redcoats? The redcoats. The redcoats. What is a mohawk? What is a mohawk? That's a hairdo, right? You guys seen the so real quick, since we're live, let's do this. Since we're live, right? Roman hat. Let's see what we get. We're gonna. Okay, hold up, guys. Where we at? Hold on, sorry. All right. A Roman hat, right? What is this thing they have in the top? What is that red thing? What is that supposed to do? That's a mohawk, guys. That's a mohawk. Who's known to have rocked the mohawks mainly in the United States. All right. It's starting to get way past theories and conjectures. And it doesn't mean, oh, the Iroquois are evil. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. All right. Hey, even the Hebrews got Hellenized, right? Hellenized, Hellenized. Even the Hebrews, even Israelites got Hellenized, right? We got a lot of good videos coming, guys. A lot of good research, right? I've shown the clothing of the Iroquois, and then I've compared it next to a Roman drawing, because also they have drawings, right? And costumes like this, costumes. And it looks very similar. All right, now let's go back real quick. Don't take this all personal now. So, yeah, good friend was saying me, that looked like an Iroquois. And then we're talking about Romans, right? What a coincidence. All right, so it says bronze head of a man with an American physical type in the Louvre Museum. All right, my own judgment is that if one covers over the ears on the bronze, which are perhaps excessively large in order to provide balance to the work of art, one sees an indigenous American face, one with a combination of features found in many parts of North, Central, and South America. All right. All right. Hold on. Let me just read the. Hey, pura vida. Welcome if you just joined us. We're just building right now. We're getting some good info. Make sure to get the replay if you're a little late. It's all good. You're right on time. Don't worry. Facts over feelings. You know how we do. Hey, shout out to all the real ones in the chat backing me up. All right, man. Now, hold up. Now, let us proceed to examine the documentary evidence relating to American visits to Europe in the Roman and Teutonic periods. The initial source is a description of the world written by Pomponius Mela during the reign of Emperor Claudius, 41 to 94 AD, probably written in 44 AD. Mela, in the process of discussing a then current theory, attributed to Homer that the Indian Ocean possessed a direct connection with the North and Baltic Seas, introduced relevant information as follows. All right. And so we actually read this in my previous video, right? Not the one before this, but recent video when we talked about the Americans being washed ashore, right? We were talking about this person right here, Cornelius Nepos, what he said about his friend. Now it says Cornelius Nepos, a more recent and therefore more authoritative author, adds the testimony of Quintus Metellus Celer. Remember, these are Romans on this point, and says that he gave the following account. When he was governor of Gaul, some Indians were given to him by the king of the Boii. On asking where they had come from to these lands, their present whereabouts, he learned that they had been driven from the Indian seas by violent storms and finally come ashore in Germany. All right. So they're not talking about Hindustan, guys. How do you get from Hindustan all the way to Germany on a current? We're talking about from America. India Superior. North America was India Superior. It wasn't called North America. Most references to America was actually South America, guys. Check out my origin of the video, the name America. North America was actually referenced as India Superior, or the Greater China, the Greater India, Greater, Superior. Why would they call it superior if it's not the superior? Thus, an author of greater authority, Cornelius Nepos, asserted that Quintus Metellus Celer, when preconsul of Gaul, told him that he received some Indians, Indos, from the king of the Boii, a Celtic people located in present-day France and also farther east, perhaps to Bohemia, who asserted that they were driven by a storm to the coast of Germany, which they could reach to the Rhine area of the Netherlands from the seas of India. Hey, Austin, hey, I already know. Other versions of Mela's text state that the Indians were delivered to Celer by the king of the Suevi, a wandering Germanic-speaking people located in the region of the Netherlands, North Germany, and or northern France and Belgium, and closely associated with the Sequani, a Celtic-speaking group. Unfortunately, the geographical work of Cornelius Nepos is lost, but he seems to have obtained his information on the Indians from Celer directly. The event apparently occurred in the period around 62 BC. 62 BC, Americans navigating or being shipwrecked in Europe. This is way before Vikings, way before any Europeans coming over here, way before Columbus. So I'm trying to tell you something here big. Columbus was never lost. He knew where he was going. We've done videos on that. The Vatican knew America was here. Everybody knew America was here. They knew. They just couldn't come over here for a period until they were allowed to. Yeah. Unfortunately, the geographical work of Cornelius Nepos, oh, sorry, read that already, a later Roman writer who died in 79 AD, Claudius Pliny, or Pliny, right, also had access to Nepos' writing, telling us the same Nepos relates the following with regard to the northern passage. Indians were given as a gift to Quintus Metellus Celer, who was a colleague of Afranius. Yes, Africa is a Roman word. Africa was a colony, a Roman colony in Tunisia. And it's also a surname, all right? But we also got another word we recently learned. It's from good brother Mac from the Autonomous Party. Big one he dropped regarding this word. And we're going to most likely do a future video on that. All right. Shout out to Mac for that. So, who was the colleague of Afranius in the consulship, but at this time governor of Gaul, by the king of the Suebi? The Indians had been sailing from India on a trading mission, but had been carried off to Germany by storms. This information was provided by Pliny in connection with his discussion of the supposed marine connection between India and the north of Europe. All right. And we're not talking about Hindustan. That's what it was called back then. Bharat, Hindustan, not India. We're talking about India Superior, the real India Superior, North America. To understand the circumstances under which Mela and Pliny wrote, one must realize that everything to the east beyond India and in the island of Ceylon was only vaguely known to Romans, and that it is likely that any people thought to have been derived from Asia east from the Indus Valley to China and Japan would have been regarded as Indians. In later centuries, as we shall see, all parts of Asia east of the Ganges River were called India Extra, Gangem, India beyond the Ganges, and all persons found in Southeast Asia, the Pacific, China, and Japan regarded as being Indians, as for the Americans from 1492. What the Roman geographers did not realize was that the oceanic connection between the Indian Ocean and Northern Europe did not exist except by way of the North Pacific and the Arctic Sea. Thus, the Indians of 62 BC could not have come from the east as they imagined. Instead, they came from the India of Columbus. Not Columbus, he didn't name it that, all right? India Superior, which was, of course, America. Mela's 44 AD map of the world shows Germania extending from the Rhine River eastward. It also has India as a very large area of the southeast corner of Eurasian continent. The Ganges River in Ceres, China, face an ocean where the Pacific exists, but the latter connects directly northerly with a Scythian Ocean that in turn reaches to the Hyperborean Caspian Sea and the Britannicus Oceanus. Scandinavia is completely distorted in shape. Mela's map resembles that of Strabo from 9 BC to 21 AD, adding some detail in the Baltic, but also adding many fabulous groups such as Amazons near the Caspian people with the hooves of horses and so forth. Strabo incidentally argued that the Atlantic was navigable and that one could sail west from Spain to India. So remember, so it's not that they were trying to get to Hindustan when they were saying we're trying to get to India. They were literally talking about America. As taught by his predecessors, Eratosthenes, Mela doesn't seem to have considered that possibility. All right, so shout out to Khan Drop. Amazing research on his channel when it comes to India Superior, the lands of Prester John, Kate, Cipango, the original China, Japan, shout out to everybody else studying America and correlating everything. And, hey man, we learn from everybody. Nobody owns information. And if you don't get mentioned and you feel like you own the info, that's just your ego, we don't deal with that. European geographers later come to realize that India America and the Pacific East Asia East Indian region could be reached directly by sailing westward from Europe. But apparently, both Mel and Pliny were not conversant with ideas of voyages to and from the West, as was the case earlier with Strabo and the days of the Atlantis story. Okay. So yeah, again, shout out to Drop for we're talking about the three Indias. There was references of three Indias in these ancient writings. There wasn't just one India. And it seems to have been usually the tropical zones of the earth, the tropical zones of the earth, where we read a book, Promised Lands and Lost Tribes, where they're telling us that it meant a vast land of dark-skinned people in the tropics and something like that, and we also got the reference to Eastern Ethiopians and Western Ethiopians, not just one. And we know Ethiopian is not a landmass. It was a description for a person's appearance, mainly a dark complexion. The etymology of Ethiopia or Ethiopia is burnt face, right? People say, well, that sounds like red. Well, red man, copper colored, burnt face, dark complexion, burnt tan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The clerical historian Francisco Lopez de Gomara, writing in the 1550s, was skeptical of the notion which still persisted in his day, and in spite of the maps of Claudius Ptolemy, that one could sail from Scandinavia into East Asia through cold, freezing waters, as Lopez put it, by way of the north of that peninsula. He noted that there were no memories among the ancients of anyone traveling by such a route, with one exception of the Nepos Seller account. Lopez concludes his remarks by saying of the latter Indians, si ya no fuesen de tierra del labrador y los tuviesen por indianos, engañados en el color. Thus he seems to favor the ideas that the visitors were Americans from Labrador, Newfoundland, taken for Indianos. Oh, he's saying they're calling these American Indians Indianos, the new Spanish name for Asian Indians. Because of their color, immediately, hold up, guys. Immediately thereafter, Lopez discusses the arrival of other Indians at Lubeck in the 12th century. His exact language is, if on that occasion they would not be from Labrador, and they would hold them to be Indians, deceived by the color, not a bit of it. Besides, they say that in the days of the Emperor Federico Barbarossa, certain Indios made port at Lubeck in a canoe. Thus Lopez expresses doubt that the Indians came around via Scandinavia, in spite of the promotion of such route by his contemporary Olaus Godos. Olaus Magnus, a clerical refugee from the Swedish Reformation who died in 1558. I will suggest that the Indians, in parentheses, must have been from America, since the arrival of Sami Lapps, Finns, Russians, or other Northern Europeans is unlikely to have existed in any special notice. Sorry, guys, had to clear my throat. No, sir. But I really did. All right, so yeah. So basically what he's trying to point out here, just to help you guys follow along, is a lot of these people were saying it's definitely Indians coming over here, but they were thinking that India meant they were coming from the east. So the only way to get to Europe was to travel to the Arctic. And yeah, that's not what happened. It'll come from America, from the Atlantic, the sea currents. You don't even need paddles. It'll just bring you over there. Mela, for example, knew of the Hyperboreans, by which name he referred to such people as the Sami, Finns, Karelians, and North Baltic people. The Romans had already visited the Cimbri, now Denmark. Cimmerians, remember? And had entered the Baltic. The Teutonic nations of that region were trading and skirmishing with Rome. And Roman coins have been found in Denmark from the 1st century AD. Thus, it would seem virtually certain that the term Indians was used for a totally strange people, probably with long hair, long dark hair, and very brown skin. All right, remember, this is what Indian meant. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. This is what Indian meant. Are you very brown skin? Columbus wasn't lost. He wasn't looking for Hindustan. He would have called us Hindus or Brits, Brits. Yeah, Brits, Brats, Bharat. Yeah, there's a correlation there. We have a video on that. And we're going to follow up on that in future videos. It's too much info, so we got to do a step-by-step here. Shout out to Tone. Drop the ego and be humble. This information is for everyone. That's what's up. All right. You guys clear what Indians meant? Probably strange people that they didn't know. They never seen these strange people with long dark hair and very brown skins. All right, sorry, I had my son here talking to me. What is absolutely certain is that European geographers of the 15th century, when reading of Nepal's Indians, assumed that these Indians had crossed the Atlantic from the west. Such was the opinion of Pope Pius II, when, as Aeneas Silvius Piccolomini, he wrote his Historia Rerum with de Asia in circa 1461. Christopher Columbus was directly inspired by the belief that Indians had sailed easterly to Europe, and indeed wrote in the margins, as noted previously, of Silvius' history that he had seen 2 such persons in Galway, Ireland, coming from the west. All right, if you missed those videos, yes, Columbus met American Indians before he even came to America in the 1470s, 20 years before he sailed to America. So he wasn't lost, guys. So when you're coming to me and trolling, and I'm not talking to the real ones out here, guys. I'm talking to the people. It's like, we don't call ourselves Indians. That's Columbus named us. The white man named us. First of all, Columbus wasn't so-called white, pale skin. He was a Sephardic Portuguese Jew, Marrano, Moorish. Columbus knew. He met Indians in Ireland, right, in the 1470s. Make sure to catch up on the videos. 1 second, guys. Aeneas Silvius wrote, Plinius Nepotis, Testimonio Utipor. All right, I'm not reading the Latin. Let's go to the translation. Thus he quotes Pliny about the Indians being templates blown to the coast of Germany on a trading mission. He then goes on to add the information about Indians reaching Germany in the 12th century, which will be discussed below. Together, these instances lead him to say, in some manner, the greater part of the Northern Ocean is congealed frozen and not navigable, but away from the columns of Hercules, the Straits of Gibraltar, all right, that's in Morocco and Spain, right? When you leave the Mediterranean into the Atlantic Ocean, that's the Straits of Gibraltar. Mauritania, Hispania, Iberia, and Gaul form a circuit, and nearly all west is navigable. The east is unknown to us. He said, we don't know what's in the east, but we know if you go that way, you're going to run into so-called Indians, or, yeah, the true old land where the Egyptians came from. That's what Herodotus said, right? He said the ancestors of the Egyptians come from a distant western land. That's Herodotus. He said that. Go look it up. Thus, Sylvius was aware that the Atlantic Ocean was navigable. He was also aware that the distance to the east coast of Asia, where Indians, right, lived, we're talking about indigenous people of America, lived, was an immense one going easterly, due probably to the travels of Europeans to China and greater knowledge of India beyond the Ganges. Since the earth was seen as a globe by such thinkers, some contemporaries began to realize that the quickest route from Europe to India was directly west. That is, the far east and the far west were one and the same. Again, the farthest east, that's over here. The farthest west, that's over here. So when Marco Polo went to the farthest east, which they haven't found where he went, guys, they haven't proven where Marco Polo traveled to meet the Grand Khan. They can't find that today. He actually came over here and he met the Prester. Yeah, he met the Dawid, King David, the Grand Khan, Grand Canyon, the Grand Canyon, Grand Khan. Columbus said he was coming to meet the Grand Khan. All right, it's all fitting together. All right, so again, the Far East and the Far West were one and the same. Since America was unknown as a large continent, but was merely known, if all at all, as islands, Atlantis, the work of Sylvius influenced the geographer Paolo Toscanelli and Columbus, and part of that influence consisted in the references to Indians being blown by storm to the European coast. Sylvius, after citing Pliny, goes on to inform us that one Otto, probably Otto of Freysen, indicated that during the reign of one of the German emperors, a boat and Indian traders were caught on the German coast, to which place, from an unwelcome contrary wind from the east, blowing constantly, they arrived accidentally. All right. So again, guys, there's many sources and references, right, to these so-called Indians, American indigenous people washing up over there in ancient times in Europe, way before Vikings and anybody came over here. Okay? Many references when we start actually doing the research. So this Otto, right? That's what he's saying too. This event seemingly occurred in the 1160s or thereabouts, and perhaps was localized in the West Baltic or in the Friesland region between Denmark and the Netherlands. But we are also informed by the Spanish writer López de Gomara, as noted, that was in Spanish. Let me see. También dicen como en tiempo del emperador Federico Barroja. All right, let's see if we can just. So in the time of the Emperor Federico, we got this earlier actually. He already translated this. Thus, Lopez reports from his sources that in the time of Emperor Frederick I of Barbarossa, a canoe load of Indians reached Lubeck, a Wendic Slavic port of East Holstein, which had been conquered and refounded by Saxons and Frisian merchants in 1138 to 43 AD. He went on to tell the reader about Aeneas Sylvius' continuing belief in an ocean connection from Scandinavia to India, and then to relate the belief of Olaus Magnus about the possibility noted above of sailing to China from northern Norway. Sailing to China, right? The real China. China. Katai. Yeah. Shout out to everybody that does this research, good brothers out there, some good channels, Old World Florida, Drop, you know, hey, shout out to the brother Waking Up with Analog. He's got so many references of this in his newspaper articles that he'd be finding. All right. Were these the same Indians as reported by Otto of Freysen, or were they a second group perhaps following up on trade opportunities? Since Lubeck was already a major trading center, it is possible that they were encouraged to go there after initially landing somewhere else. In any case, Paul Gaffro interprets Lopez de Gomara as saying that the Indians of Seller and Lubeck could be from America. Who knows if the Indians of Metellus-Celler were not Americans from Labrador? Translates Gaffarel, but note my own earlier translation of Lopez, which is somewhat different. Another early writer, Cornell Whitfield, stated that the Indians could not come from the farthest Orient or Occident, but that they were from Labrador. We're talking about Newfoundland, from Estoitiland. All right, that's what they called it, or other neighboring country. And one who knows about differences in climate would concur with me. All right. 1 second, guys. Yeah, it's not easy being live and reading, trust me, but we used to it. Whitfield also wrote in his History Universal the Indies. All right, let's get to the translated part. In short, he believed that Indians of Seller and Lubeck were from the Labrador, Newfoundland region, and he adds that Paolo Giovio, an Italian historian and cleric, was of the same opinion. But in addition, he is said to have offered the notion that Americans were coming to England and France to capture people for human sacrifice. Oh man, Dash the hijack. So they'd go all the way over there just to get humans for sacrifice. They had people over here they can grab. They had enemies. They had people they didn't want from their communities. So that's the hijack with the whole sacrifice thing. A more accurate source would seem to be that of Antonio Galvano, who wrote in circa 1555. In the year 1153, in the time of Frederic Barbarossa, it is written that there came to Lubeck one canoa with certain Indians, like unto a long barge, which seemed to have come from the coast of Bacalaos, Newfoundland region, the Cod Island, Cod Sea. The Germans greatly wondered to see such a barge and such people, not knowing from whence they came, nor understanding the speech, especially because there was then no knowledge of that country. And now there is, it may be credible that tough the boat was small in respect of those huge seas, yet the winds and water might bring them thither. Those who have suggested that the Indians of Seller and Lubeck might have been Sami, Finns, or other Northern European people have failed. Those people don't do research. I think to understand the extent of trade and commerce that must have already existed throughout the Baltic and the multilingual capacities that would have resulted. British scholars have, for example, demonstrated that over a period of several thousand years, during the life of, the Stonehenge Sacred Circle, that part of Britain, as well as Ireland and Brittany, and even more remote regions were in regular contact. During the century prior to our own era, Romans were in contact with large areas of the southern Baltic Rim, as noted earlier, as well as specifically with the Cimbri Peninsula, Denmark, and Holstein. All right. Now, remember what we read about Denmark, or the Mark of Dan? Denmark or Denmark, Danites. Who's the Danites? Where the Danites come from? They come from Canaan. Canaan is the Holy Land, or is the true Holy Land, the true Promised Land. We're just talking about ancient America. So you guys understand there has been trade. He's right. There has been trade since ancient times. It seems logical to assume that the existence of Sami, Finns, Slavic groups, and other Baltic people would be known, and that one could find individuals in Gaul or the Rhine region who could translate from the many Celtic, Germanic, Slavic, and Finno-Ugric languages of the region, as well as even pre-Indo-European tongues still spoken in Roman times. Tacitus, 90 AD, and Procopius, 530 to the 50s AD, both were aware of the Finni or Lapps. Tacitus described the Finni as being hunters with skins for clothing. Skins, all right, skins for clothing. Procopius was aware of many Sami-Lapp customs. It would seem likely that the Sami of the period were basically similar in physical type to other Northern Europeans, except for stature. and that they would hardly be mistaken for Indians. Slavic peoples, Latvians, Lithuanians, and Phoenicians, Fenia, Karelians were doubtless also part of the Baltic trading world. And this would be especially true by the 1100s. Lubeck at that time was in the state of transition from Wendic Slavic ascendancy to Germanic dominance, and the trading center must have been very multilingual. All right. Hey, greetings from Finland. Hey, shout out to and thanks for the support. Anybody donating? I can't see the chat too much when I'm reading, but appreciate it. Paul Gaffro, a careful student of these matters, summed up the situation of both the Roman and Teutonic contacts by stating, therefore, it seems that the Greeks and Romans never went to America. On the contrary, there are Americans who during the first century before the Christian era might have come to Europe. Of course, we are talking about the unintended trips of some Americans brought by storm onto the European shores, all right? So, that's the hijack with that, and it's not just from shipwrecks. We were navigating over there. Again, who's the so-called Phoenicians, Danites, and all these people, all right? Where's the true Canaan? These trips are very much disputed. However, if they are not proved, they are at least very likely. After discussing other examples of Americans reaching European waters, Gaffrel goes on to say, therefore, it is quite possible that the winds brought some Americans to the European coast. For the distance in between is not so important that it cannot be traversed in a short time. In this connection, he cites the story of the Marquis de la Roche, who in a small boat was driven by a storm from Sable Island, Canada, to France in a very short time. You hear that? This was happening a lot, guys. Trust me. He also cites other examples of native travel that we will discuss below. But perhaps the most important evidence is found in the opinions of Christopher Columbus. All right, so-called Columbus. What's his real name? Oh, we got so many videos coming. As he wrote in the margins of Pierre de Ailly, Imago Mundi, written in 1420, Pliny's Natural History, and especially Aeneas Sylvius Historia from 1477. Most of Columbus' marginal notes in those works were written in the 1481-90 period, and they reveal the importance of the American visits to Europe. Columbus was frequently impressed by evidence presented in both the Ailly and Sylvius that India and Iberia, Hispanium, were not very distant, sailing westward from the latter. For example, Columbus wrote marginally in Imago Mundi. All right, this is what Columbus is writing. The sea that separates Spain, Iberia, and India is small. The Ailly went on to say, as Columbus interpreted, India is at the extremity of the east, and the end of the west is properly the extremity of Spain. The Ailly also wrote that India is immensely large and has 118 peoples. Well, we have way more than that, right? Columbus' marginal note reiterates that it is the third part of the habitable world, and India gentis, India has 118 nations, not people. The Ailly continues that from the extremity of Spain and the beginning of India, it is an area that is not great. Columbus writes marginally, India is near Spain. Columbus also wrote marginal notes in Pliny's Natural History, but 861 notes were placed in his copy of Sylvius Historia. For example, Columbus writes, all right, all these translations, it says, that is, the author states that all of the Northern Sea is navigable, and the author states that boats coming from the West Indies, Indias, that contain humans and merchandise reach Germany. Columbus then goes on to write, that is, if the distance was extremely great between Germany and India, the boat could not have make the journey without mishap. Moreover, it proved that two countries are close. It is at this point that Colon goes on to describe his directly witnessing the arrival of two Americans in Galway, Ireland in 1477. Again, Columbus met Indians, American Indians in Ireland before he came. So he was never lost, guys. All right? Break out of that. As discussed in chapter 1, make sure to catch up to the videos. We read chapter 1 already. People from Catayo, right? People from Catay towards the east, they came. From the east, they came. I mean, from the west, they traveled east, right? Towards the east. They traveled towards the east and they ended up in Europe. From Catay, Catayo, the original Catay. Yeah, original. Shout out to Drop and Waking Up with Analog. We saw many notable, and a shout out to Tone too, putting in that work as well, helping us with more info. We saw many notable things, especially in Galway, Ireland, of a man and wife of marvelous form with 2 dugouts logs in their possession. After this most important statement, Columbus goes on to add, that is, the author, Sylvius, says that the Northern Ocean is not congealed, nor innavigable. The east for us is unknown. However, the ancients claim that someone has navigated there. From French translation, even if ancients went forth navigating. I'm still here, guys. Sorry, I have to pause sometimes. I get a lot of questions asked here with my kids and stuff, and a lot of things going on in my house right now. All right, just bear with me sometimes. Continuing, says, in short, not only did Columbus personally witness the arrival of Americans in Ireland, all right, not only did he witness the arrival of Americans in Ireland, so how was he lost? But he clearly interpreted the information from Pliny and Sylvius as referring to people crossing the Atlantic. Of course, there are other reasons for Colon's opinion, such as the references to boats reaching the Azores from the west, as discussed below, along with carved wood objects and deceased humans of non-European and non-African type. There is also additional evidence of which Columbus' sources were unaware. A very prominent writer of books about maritime life, Jean Marion, has provided us with 2 references to the arrival of American on the west coast of Spain or neighboring Portugal. Marion states in Lonely Voyagers, in the Middle Ages there arrived one day on the coast of Spain a man red, right? The red man, or rouge, a red man, and strange, very strange, and a craft described as a hollow tree, that's a canoe. From the recorded description, which specifically says that he was not a Negro, he might well have been a Native American in Piragua, a dugout boat, all right? Dodge the hijack. Remember, Indian, a strange people with very dark brown complexion. So-called Negro, right? Unfortunately, the man died before he learned to speak the local language. He had been put in the care of religious fraternity who carried him off to their bishop so that he might be instructed and baptized. The journey was too much for him. All right. So again, I just want to point out something so you guys can think about it and remember, all these Europeans writing this, they're not pale skin. Not all of them, if any, right? Like, yeah. So when you're talking about Negroes, you got to dodge the hijack. Negro meant something else in many different times. And we got to see the original translations. All right, so where were we? Oh yeah, shortly thereafter, Marion wrote a book on Christopher Columbus in which he states, according to the chronicle, a man had been found alive on the coast of Portugal and had died without having been able to make himself understood, though he was taken to the bishop. Unfortunately, Marion does not tell us which chronicle he used, and my efforts to trace his sources have been fruitless. However, it would seem that the red man arrived either in Galicia or the Oporto region, where the border of Spain and Portugal was obscure due to the fact that Spain did not then exist as a state and Portugal only emerged gradually between 997 and 1143 AD. I would think that Marian is referring to this general period because after the 1150s, the distinction between Portugal and Galicia, Leon and Castile would be clearer. All right. So if you just if you just joined us, yeah, if you guys are like, I don't mind you guys, with the conversation stuff. Just try to stay on topic. When you go off topic, it does distract others, and then you guys start going off on other things, So, out of respect, if you can just stay in topic, let's talk about what we're reading, and let's build together, and that way we don't get distracted and stuff. Thanks for tuning in. If you just joined us, make sure to catch the replay if you missed, the beginning already. The port of Gauls, right? Portugal, the port of Gauls. Who's the Gauls? Future videos. The port of Gauls, Portugal. Occasionally, artifacts have been turned up in Europe that suggest visits by Americans. These include harpoon heads of possibly Inuit origin, found in Ireland and Scotland from much the same period just discussed, as well as numerous kayaks of somewhat later date. These will be considered in the next chapter in connection with the northern or Inuit route from America to Europe. But here it is necessary to examine 4-bay clay masks, now housed in the Pitt Rivers Museums of Oxford University. The ceramic heads in question are called masks because of their lacking a back, being only rather thick representations of the front of a face. They lack eye slits, however, and therefore were perhaps never intended to be worn by humans as in a dance or ceremony. They may have been funerary masks, used in some American cultures to cover the head of the deceased or otherwise to represent the deceased. They were perhaps originally painted, but most of the paint has disappeared except for traces. The masks are described by English observers as grotesque and seem unlikely to have been the kind of object that would be brought to England by a collector or by a dealer in the antiquities. Now let us review their provenance and history so far as I have been able to discover. In 1884, Julian Pitt Rivers acquired 2 ceramic items as part of the original collection of artifacts. They were described as grotesque, death heads, face, and a coarse pottery, classified as figures of religion. At a much later date, 1984, they were labeled as Aztec and said to be from Mexico. I dodged the hijack. Aztec ain't really that ancient, guys. I'm talking about the modernized. When we talk about Mexica, the original, way before the Aztec got there like in the 1440s. Yeah, They invaded. They're not the original people there. They got there right before Columbus came. How convenient, right? And then they let the Spanish into their city. How more convenient for the Spanish. Hey, future videos. All right, I'm gonna break that down. So let me see, where were we? By Elizabeth Baquedano of the Institute of Archaeology, London University. They were cataloged as 1884.67.83 and 1884.67.84. And these are the masks they have here, guys. Wow, those look like they do look like the Central American and South American. Wow, I actually seen things like that here in the pottery and everything. So I've never read this part of the book, guys. So, this is all new to me too. It is not known from whom Pitt Rivers acquired the 2 heads. However, I will suggest that they came from Gloucester City, and specifically from an excavation in College Street in that city. In May 1883, the Gloucester Journal reported that College Street was to be widened. It is proposed to take down the houses on the eastern side of the street and re-erect a row of more imposing-looking buildings. At the same time, the street was to be widened, but a picturesque ancient gateway on the west side would not be changed. The widening would provide a carriage route to the cathedral, as it was the street is a miserable lane, so narrow that there is barely room for one vehicle to pass along it at a time. All this might mean very little except that a very similar, perhaps identical, head turned up as a result of an excavation in College Court, an alley very close to College Street and also leading to the cathedral area. John Rose, then director of the Gloucester City Museum, informed me that the College Court head was probably found prior to 1930 and could even go back to the 1860s when the museum was open. The museum had held the object for years, but there was no accession date or any other records of acquisition. They were literally hiding it. Mr. Rhodes, earlier, oh, sorry, did I skip? The city also had no record of any excavations in College Court. Mr. Rhodes earlier had written to me that the College Court head and one found at Bull Lane to be discussed occurred in the city center, which has been occupied in more or less continuously from Roman times to the present. All right, so just trying to get through this a little quicker because I want to get to the other book. So they're talking about this head. All right, we got it. Now, it says here on December 5th, 1967, Mr. Rose had sent to the Pitt Rivers Museum the head found in College Court, referred to as a grotesque mask. He said that it is one of two found in building sites in Gloucester. Hitherto, we have regarded them as possibly medieval local products. But yesterday, a visitor told me that he had seen similar object in your galleries labeled as Mexican death mask. Okay, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's like the Mexican death mask. I've seen what they find it in you from medieval times. If the enclosed really is of foreign origin, please do not trouble to return it. A reply was made on December 18, in which Mr. Rose was informed by Beatrice Blackwood that the mask certainly bears a close resemblance to a specimen described in our catalog as Death Heads, Mexico. It is one of the original Pitt River specimens and has no further documentation, and the resemblance even extends to the traces of white paint. It therefore seems likely that your mask does indeed come from Mexico. Objects as exotic have been found on British sites, though how they got there remains a mystery. On June 6, 1968, Mr. Rose sent the other Gloucester head to the Pitt Rivers, this one being the one found in excavations of 1951 at the site of the Bull Inn, as mentioned above. 1 second. A few days later, Miss Blackwood responded that she had taken the first mask to the Ashmolean Museum to show it to the medieval specialists. The latter stated that they do not know of anything remotely like them from medieval England. The resemblances between both of your specimens and the two Mexican death heads masks we have are so detailed and striking that I have no doubt. He said he has no doubt, or she says, that they are in fact Mexican or from Mexico. All right? This is stuff they don't teach us, guys. They never told me this in elementary school, middle school, high school, and they don't teach this in college, even though they know these things are out there. All right? So teachers, educators, professors, when are you going to start teaching this to us, to our children, and tell them the truth? Come on. Come on. Don't worry about your jobs and everything. You know, I mean, I didn't mean to say it like that. But, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to care. It's more than just money, you know? You got to care. And if you're worried about getting fired, then let's create our own schools. You know? What are we waiting for? Okay? We shall be pleased to give them a home among our Mexican antiquities. Unfortunately, the two new masks were mixed up so that it became impossible by the 1990s to tell which one was from College Court and which from Bull Inn. However, we do have a clue in that court head was mentioned as still having traces of white paint. The number 1977 15.1 has been assigned to one with Gloucester Head to the Pitt Rivers, this one being one found in excavation of 1951 at the site of the Bull Inn as mentioned above. All right. Hey, I think I went backwards. Sorry, guys. I lost my place. Yeah, I went backwards. My fault. Okay. All right. So perhaps now the reader will understand why I feel that the original Pitt Riverhead stemmed from Gloucester, also from the College Street location that is very close to College Court and also to the Bull Inn location. Now, as to the Bull Inn find, the 1951 report of the Gloucester City Museum states that a careful watch was kept for any possible traces of Roman buildings. When the foundations for the extension of the telephone exchange were dug in the area between Bull Lane and Berkeley Street, a quantity of medieval and some Roman pottery was collected from this site. Any traces of Roman buildings must have been destroyed by the medieval pits that had been dug right down into the natural sand. Mrs. Diane Rini, an archaeologist, had joined the staff in June 1951. A report of medieval pottery from Bull Lane, Gloucester was prepared by someone at the museum. It states that when the foundation for the telephone exchange building were dug, a square of about 20 feet was completely excavated by hand to a depth of 10 feet, and further excavation by hand took place in a part of the area. Pits several feet deep, which contained pottery of medieval, written in dates, as well as Roman pottery ranging from 2nd to 4th century, were seen to have been cut into it. The medieval pits had evidently been cut through through Roman levels. It adds that as much pottery as could be rescued without delaying the men working was collected and has been placed in the Gloucester City Museum. The Mexican ceramic head was found as a part of this collection of medieval and Roman materials. In a letter, Diane Rini states that the area dug up was not really done by hand, but by pick and shovel instead of mechanical excavator. She was kept in the case. She kept watch in case any remains of Roman buildings should be discovered, in which case we should have tried to make records of it. The site seemed of sufficient importance to carry out some archaeological investigation. So basically, I know what he's going to basically get to the point of this head also, that it's American. You know, it don't resemble anything in Europe. All right. And let me just go a little ahead, guys. Let me see how much we got left. Oh, yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot. Let me see. I think we're going to actually continue with the rest in another part. All right. Because it's actually a lot. This is a long chapter. All right. So far, you guys see, and they're finding archaeological artifacts that prove they're coming from pre-Columbus America. They have references of American Indians washing ashore. Many references, right? We have a bronze head that depicts an Indian, so-called Indian. Columbus wasn't lost. All right. The capability of ancient Americans to travel the Atlantic was definitely possible. All right. Definitely possible. All right. So let me get to the next book, guys, because I want to correlate this. We're going to get back to this chapter. Don't worry. There's a lot of good info there. Just 1 second. Just going to stop sharing real quick. All right. Turn on my video. Real quick, guys, I'm going to turn on my video. All right, where we at? Okay. Okay. Hold up. Oh, we got to take that off. 1 second, guys. There we go. All right. So I recently found this, not found, but bought. Great book. I mean, I recommend it. You know, it's pretty up there in price. But it's a great book. We're going to get into. We're going to just scratch the surface today with it. First 2 chapters real quick. All right. As you guys see in plain sight, Old World Records in Ancient America by Gloria Farley. All right, Gloria Farley. All this is being found here, guys. All this stuff is being found here. All right. So we're gonna get right into it. All right. Yeah. So want to say thank you to all the Patreon supporters and anybody that donates, because with your help, I'm able to buy books like this, and so I'll definitely invest in things that we can use to build and learn. And this is a very good book. All right. Sorry. Let me go to my PDF. 1 second. All right. So but what I did is I scanned. 1 second. Let me Okay. So what I did is I scanned the first 2 chapters of this book. Again, it's called In Plain Sight, Old World Records in Ancient America by Gloria Farley. And we're just going to read a part here that correlates with what we're reading today. And I wanted her to read Jack Ford's book first before I read this, because like I said, what he was pointing out earlier, that when they find all these things here in America, they automatically say, well, they came from the old world. So Egyptians came, Sumerians came, and all that other stuff. And no, this is the true old world. You're seeing it in reverse. Okay? What does it say about this book real quick? Anyone who reads this book can never again believe that Columbus or even Leif Erikson discovered America. Evidence presented that the old world people were here centuries before them is in the form of translated writing on stone and related petroglyphs, which the author has carefully recorded for the past 45 years. All right? But this is the true old world, so they were here. That's why you'll find they didn't come from anywhere else. All right? So yeah, some of the references. Another image of the cover without the book cover. This is the actual hard cover. When I took off the paper cover that it had on over it. All right? In Plain Sight by Gloria Farley. All right, chapter 1. The reasons and introduction. This book is an attempt to record as factually as possible the last 45 years of my research into the prehistory of America, which pertains to visitations or colonization by people who were not American Indians. Dodge the hijack. Because again, they're finding all this script here. They're like, well, that's from the old world, so it can't be from here. It can't be from American Indians. Oh, but we civilized the world. I know you guys know because you've been following me for a while. All right. Although some of this research has been done with endless hours at the typewriter and in libraries, most of it was pursued by climbing cliffs, crawling into caves, searching mountains and rivers in interior America for certain stones. The search did not pertain to geology, but to epigraphy. Epigraphy. All right. We learned that recently, right? In that video, we talked about all the scripts that they found here. There's a society of the Epigraphical Society of America, and they've done so much great work. This stuff does never get taught to us. It's considered pseudo, And that's just the gatekeepers, really, Their search was for stones bearing ancient inscriptions made by people using letters which were not English alphabet. I finally gained the title of epigraphic explorer. To those who said they did not understand its meaning, I replied, don't let it bother you. I was one for 26 years before I knew it. So that's her drawing going into like wells and stuff. Look at her. All right. So epigraphy is the study and interpretation of ancient inscriptions, especially those carved on stone. The specialized field of epigraphy is but one academic discipline used to study the idea of diffusionism, the belief that cultures on different continents were shaped by means of early transoceanic voyages. Diffusionists stand in direct opposition to the independent inventionists, sometimes called isolationists, who believe that anything similar on different continents arose independently. The latter theory has been disproved in other ways than by epigraphy. As George F. Carter says, when commenting on ancient agricultural products found so far away from their place of origin, who's able to invent a sweet potato or a chicken? Huh? Sweet potatoes cannot float from continent to continent without rotting. Chickens really cannot fly that far. All right, he's saying something deep here. How did Irish get potatoes? Potatoes are not from Ireland, they're from the Andes, South America. Why has this search consumed every spare moment for so many years? My curiosity is insatiable. A minister once said to me in a critical tone, "You have an ungodly curiosity. Everything from an ant to an oil rig, you have to know all about it." My curiosity about inscriptions on stone began at age 12. This was when I first saw on Patu Mountain above my hometown of Heavener, Oklahoma, that 12-foot standing stone deeply pegged with 8 strange symbols, locally called Indian rock. 20 years later, in 1948, I began to believe that the symbols on the stone indicated Norsemen had visited the area before the time of Columbus. I renamed the rock the Heavener Runestone and began my search for similar inscriptions in that area. In the years after 1950, the Arkansas River Valley was combed and searched for other runestones. During this time, many stones were located which were carved with lettering which could not be read in English. My purpose was to correctly record any of these inscriptions which appeared to be anciently made. Initially, I thought only the ones that were similar to the runic alphabets of Scandinavia were important. Many other inscriptions on stone were found which were definitely not runic. At the time, their significance was not known. Fortunately, they all were correctly recorded and material filed away. The Oklahoma runestones represent but a small part of my quest, which has led me to 24-state British Columbia, Egypt, and Nubia. It would have been a surprise in the early years to know that my continued work would contribute to the knowledge that not only the Norse, but many other old world people had apparently visited America before Columbus. All right, again, that doesn't mean just because she's finding this that people came over here. These are the most likely the original people, the precursors, the script they're finding to what they eventually became known as runic and all that over there. Some even appear to have been here before the birth of Christ. After working for 27 years almost alone, with accomplishments solely gained, I was fortunate to channel my work into the mainstream of epigraphic research, particularly the efforts of Dr. Barry Fell of Harvard University. Again, Barry Fell, great book he has, America BC. We haven't even scratched. We've just scratched the surface with that book, guys. We haven't even read it all. We're gonna read it all, but again, I like to go over other information first. That way, by the time we read that, you guys have full understanding of what we're reading. All right. So Barry Fell, he has a great book, and she worked with him. It was not until 1975 when I finally met him. I found a person who seemed to be able to make sense of the scores of inscriptions in my files. He was able to propose decipherments based on the old world scripts he was studying, which actually predicted and explained my findings. He was also the founder and president of the Epigraphic Society, an organization devoted to the study of ancient inscriptions worldwide. He has also acted as editor of the Epigraphic Society occasional publications, in which has been published articles by me and many other authors. The story of my acquaintance with him and other members of the society will be found in the postscript of this book. However, some points should be made here to help introduce his proposed decipherments, which are presented in this book. Fell's work in linguistics is pioneering. Although there has been speculation about ancient visits from the old world ever since European colonization of North America began in the 16th century, Fell was able to provide a startling evidence in the form of ancient translatable inscriptions. It was his first book on the subject, America BC. And guys, just for you know, I shared this book on my Patreon page for all my patrons. If you're a patron and you don't know that yet, hey, go get the book. It's in there. Which stirred some historians and linguistics into a heated controversy which continues. I'm also going to upload this book here, everything I scan by parts, into for my Patreons. You know, I gotta look out for my patrons because they're looking out for me and they go out their way to, you know, do that for me, and you know, they make it possible for me to be able to buy these books and for me to feed my family. You know, we're doing this full time now, guys, and I appreciate, you know, I'm thankful to the Great Spirit Most High for this, you know. So I'm very grateful to the patrons that are, helping me out with that. I don't promote my page. I don't say, hey, donate to me every time, but people do it willingly without me even telling them. So I appreciate you guys, always. So Phil had realized that he was setting the stage for future scholarship for in 1975. He had said to me, I'm not always 100% correct. This is the way I see it now. I learn as I go along, just like us, guys. We learn as we go. And if I find I am wrong, I will say so. Although this attitude is definitely in the true scientific tradition, he has been severely attacked by some scholars who had already published material contrary to his ideas. As I realized that Fell's opinion may change with additional information, any implied conclusions in this book must be viewed with this in mind. Although he has sent me some updates, he cannot constantly be asked to reconsider the decipherment he has offered. All right. All right. So she goes on. It says here, the first script that I encountered was the old Germanic futhark used by the Scandinavians, which appears on the Heavener runestone and on some other inscriptions apparently left by the Norse in America. Later, many scripts were found more closely related to Mediterranean, Middle Eastern alphabets. These include South Arabian, scattered Egyptian hieroglyphs, and the Cyprian script. I have recorded many inscriptions written in Numidian letters, an alphabet used by the Libyans in the Carthaginians' Punic script, an alphabet which evolved from the Phoenician, also in North African, Greek, Kufic, and the ancient Tifinagh, which is still in use. So she's letting you know she's found all this over here, just like Barry Fell and many others have found all these inscriptions over here, guys. They never taught us any of this stuff in school. From the Iberian Peninsula, there are Tartessian, Iberic, and Portuguese-style Ogham. Most of the messages I have recorded in America appear to be written in the Ogham alphabet, used principally by the Celts in Iberia, Ireland, and Scotland. The Ogham inscriptions have included the specialized Brickren Ogham written with dots. My recordings include the only inscriptions found so far in America in the Gaelic alphabet. All of these mentioned scripts were identified by Fell. There are other scripts recorded by me which have never been identified and remains for future study. All right, so that's all she has found over here. She's letting you know. All right. Many of the inscriptions which I have recorded are bilingual or even trilingual, where the same message is in more than one script or language. Such inscriptions are precedent in the old world. This bewildering trait, plus the number of ancient scripts recorded, is mind-boggling unless one understands the extent of the integration of cultures in the old world. Yeah, here in America. For example, the Phoenicians were aggressive traders who established colonies in Spain and North Africa. Yeah, from here. Carthage was the most successful of these colonies, becoming power in its own right until it was destroyed by Rome in the Punic Wars. Carthage in turn established colonies elsewhere, including Spain and the Mediterranean island. The Iberian Peninsula became the melting pot for many Western European and Mediterranean peoples. All right, so where's the true Mediterranean Sea? Are we talking about the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico? All right, so let's see if we can keep going real quick. All right, you can read along if you like, guys. Make sure that if you're watching this later on, anybody that's watching this when that wasn't on the live, you can pause it and read all this stuff. All right, it's a lot of just random talking of her experiences and stuff. And so she's just telling you why she's creating this book. This is the first chapter, what she has found, who she knows, what's her background. All right, so let's see here. With this background, the book describes in detail many inscriptions defined as writing on stone, petroglyphs, pictures on stone, pictographs, pictures on stone and pictographs painted on stone, and some artifacts which may provide evidence pertaining to the subject of ancient visitation. We're just seeing it in reverse here. The line drawings included in this book are not sketches, but scale drawings made by me from photographs, latex molds, plastic casts, or direct traces of the petroglyphs and inscriptions. While it was not feasible to include photographs of each of the line drawings, the reader is assured that they do exist. All right. She has 9 You guys can go visit these places. As my work progressed, new doors of understanding constantly opened. In the beginning of the research, very few of us realized that pre-Columbian Old World explorations of America had occurred. Although this had been proposed by some during the last century, it was heretical to imagine that they were commonplace. All right. It was actually a common thing. They're found throughout Americas, guys. All over. We've gone over so many references, right, in previous videos. All over. This proof this is the old world. Now thousands of people recognize the truth in this. Now thousands of us, guys, all of us, we recognize the truth. We're waking up. Although all of America appears to be full of this evidence, all of America, my recordings have been mostly limited to my native Oklahoma and to the neighboring states of Arkansas, Missouri, Colorado, and New Mexico. I mean, that would be such a big undertaking for her, right, to go throughout the whole Americas. The places most easily reached, but anywhere I go with open eyes and open mind, I seem to find other evidences, all right? So that's her. This is how she broke down chapter 1, you know? And we're gonna go right into chapter 2 real quick. Oh, this is some pictures of her going through these, look what she's going through. Like, look at the work. The boots on the ground, right? She did the work, and you guys can do the same. You guys can do the same. She wasn't even like an archaeologist or anything like that. You know, it's up to us. You know, we gotta bring this out. All right. If you're out there in these places, if you're into this stuff, if you're studying this, well, you can be the first, right, to tell it correctly, write the book correctly. You know, because eventually I am going to do it. So if you want to beat me to it, go ahead. Go ahead. This ain't my info. All right. More pictures of her. I mean, look at that. I mean, she's putting in the work. Look what they're doing. They're deciphering all these glyphs they're finding in all these weird places, right? Look at that. Ogham all over the place right here. So Oklahoma, Colorado, as she's saying. Picture Canyon. Cimarron River. Oklahoma. All right. So chapter 2. They came in ships. Dodge the hijack. What did we just read, guys? We went over there in ships. That's why I wanted to read that book first. I have seen old ships sail like swans asleep beyond the village. All right, that's a poem. Ever since 1948, evidence that pre-Columbian Old World explorers repeatedly visited America has accumulated in my files. Naturally, the question was, how did they arrive? Obviously, it had to have been by sea using ships. Well, not so obvious. What if they could fly back then, huh? We don't know. All right? Hey, well, we'll definitely came by ship. We definitely navigated by ships, though, back and forth, right? Not just coming from over there. We went over there first, as we already read. 60 BC, India's being washed up. The currents will bring you from here over there easier than from that way over here. All right, let's be logical. Pura vida, brother, pura vida. Washi Red Line. Everybody in the chat, all the real ones, much love, man. Hey, Washi, we playing some of your music. Robin Dre beats, you know. So what I want to show you guys is the actual in the petroglyph she's found. All right, so she's basically breaking down, yeah, you know, people come in ships and all that, and all the references. So again, you guys can pause this when you have the time and read it yourself if you like. Again, for the Patreons, I'm gonna upload these first 2 chapters on the Patreon tonight. So make sure to go ahead and get it and review it yourself if you like. All right. It appears that ocean crossings in both directions were feasible between old and new worlds, both transatlantic and transpacific. The question of whether ancient crossings did occur is a separate issue. The inscriptions, petroglyphs, and artifacts found in the interior of America that are discussed in this book bear directly on this subject. Even if landings on the Atlantic Ocean seaboard did occur, this does not explain how ancient old world visitors could have traveled into the interior of the continent to leave the evidence presented here. Somehow, when confronted with this question, most people seem to think that the old world people must have hiked through forests, forded rivers, and crossed vast prairies to travel halfway across the continent. But they no more needed to walk through the wilderness than they needed to swim the Atlantic Ocean. The continent was then paved with shining highways, an unpolluted river system. All right? People actually traveled the rivers here, guys. That's how they traveled too, right? We know that, especially our ancestors did that. All the explorers would have to do was to follow the coastlines to find the mouths of rivers, both large and small. Ship pilots who rounded the Florida Peninsula and entered the Gulf of Mexico would have discovered the Mississippi River, along with other smaller streams. The explorers who navigated these rivers must have left behind some evidence of their passage. I again, dodged the hijack. She's seen it in reverse. We went from here over there. We went from here over there. But yeah, we were traveling the rivers. So evidence of old world visitors to the coast of Gulf of Mexico does seem to have been discovered. For example, colleagues in Georgia have placed in many hands 5 artifacts, complete with documentation attesting to their authenticity. These artifacts were all found near the Chattahoochee River, which flows into the Gulf of Mexico and form the southern half of the boundary of the states of Georgia and Alabama. All right. I got a great book on Georgia, ancient Georgia, guys. It's gonna be really good. All right. The work of Richard Thornton. Yeah, if you already know who he is, yeah, he has a great book. I also bought, and I have the physical copy, which I got to scan and make a PDF out of. But you know, it's going to be a good book we're going to read. All right, so she's going over what they have found here. So if they have a bronze Roman coin in Georgia, right, on Cedar Street, and then we have a second artifact in La Grande, Georgia, a small pillow-shaped tablet of lead inscribed with strange symbols on both sides. Like, I don't know which Hearn was digging in her yard when the 1 by 1.5 inch artifact was found. She kept the lead tablet in a box for 8 years, along with pieces of unscribed lead and stone arrowheads also dug up in her yard. Finally, someone thought the strange inscription might be important. All right. So there's so many references of people finding these things and just holding it there and just like, look what I found. You know, they don't understand how important or significant this may be. They a lot of times say, well, that's Cherokee writing. Oh, that's probably from the Cherokee. That's probably, a Siouan thing, or that's probably, I mean, most likely, but you know, they didn't call themselves like all these names and stuff. You know, these were somebody. These people had their own names and they were nations, right? And these are the true old world people. They just have different names when they tell us history. They give us different names. So then she goes on to talk about the Metcalf stone. We actually got a video on the Metcalf stone. We've done the reading. You know, look it up, the Metcalf stone, what they're finding here. All right. It says here in a publication on the Peterborough site, Feld shows petroglyphs and examples of both Celtic, Ogham, and Tifinagh script dating the site to 1700 BC. Are you serious? They're finding things from 1700 BC, Celtic Ogham, in America. It was formerly thought that the latter script had originated in North Africa, but Feld now thinks that the Tifinagh script predates the use of runes in Scandinavia and was taken by the Norsemen to Africa. Work continues on the meaning of the Indian princess. It is hoped that the original site will be relocated. It is probably in the Chattahoochee River, which forms the southern border of both Douglas and Carroll counties in Georgia. How could objects bearing variety of ancient Old World writings and images, Roman, Sumerian, Carthaginian, Minoan, and Celtic, be found over a span of 100 years beside one Georgia river, just in Georgia, unless they were brought by pre-Columbian visitors? No, because this is the true Old World, Gloria. I hope eventually you see that and help us out with the research. You've done great. Thank you for this book. Yeah, and I paid for it. Thank you. I paid. I get, thank you. We paid for it. Apparently, mariners explored the coast and waterways of North America in ships, apparently. So the river systems, right? She talks about the river systems. All right, you can pause it and read on your own. Navigation all the way from Tulsa to New Orleans. So this is some of the rivers, right? You can travel on to get to these places in Arkansas, right? The Cimarron River, Cimarron, Taino word. Yeah, this information is not for play. All right, so she's just giving you some examples. Again, feel free to pause this at any time and read it on your own. Evidence of presence of ancient European Mediterranean people in the interior of the United States is found in numerous images of their ships, incised or pegged into stone. Some of these are associated with inscriptions in Old World alphabets and languages. Most have been found on the streams and rivers that are tributaries of the Mississippi River, but some have been found elsewhere near waterways in the Rio Grande and Colorado river systems. Still others have been found far from presently navigable rivers. All right, so she's talking about these petroglyphs we're about to see, and she's going to show the examples. All right, and here's one of them right here, the rebel ship. So the first ship petroglyph was found in 1973 in Picture Canyon, Colorado, near the Oklahoma border. All right, that's the rebel ship. All right, make sure you pause this and read it, guys. It's not that I'm in a hurry, guys, but I'm kind of in a hurry. My wife's like, hurry up. But we're not, don't worry. We're almost done here. I know you guys are enjoying this and you're like, but I got all night, Kurimeo. You know, don't worry. We're going to get more in depth, deeply into this book. And we're going to take our time when I can record it and upload it like I usually do. All right. Again, thanks for tuning in and the patience and understanding. All right. So, example of construction of chicken rebels using any letters. All right. And it says here, sample English boat. All right. They're giving examples. The rebel ship petroglyph, Picture Canyon, Colorado. All right. Here's presented by Dr. Barry Feld, deciphering from the ship rebels from Picture Canyon, Colorado. He explained that the ship image is a word in the ancient Berber language using connected Numidian letters. All right. And this is what she's interpreting. And some more examples here. All right. Let me put some music more a little louder. This is a good one. Here, the simple ship petroglyph in LeFort County, Oklahoma. You see that? So there's actual petroglyphs with, that's showing ships. And they never told us none of this stuff, guys. Like, I never even know. I didn't know until I saw this on her book. I'm like, wow, and they actually have sails. It's not just a little canoe. All right. So this is stuff that she went herself and verified, and you guys can go to these places and verify if you're in these places. The ship with the bird prow. Again, make sure to pause this. And we got this other one right here, the ship with the bird prow, petroglyph, Western Oklahoma, redrawn from photographs by John Schuler. All right, you see that? I mean, when you go to the rock, it's not easy interpreting this stuff. It just looks like a bunch of lines and scribble in stone, right? Marks, right? It doesn't, but when you actually pay attention to it and you actually know epigraphy, the same thing with the so-called old world over there. They find the exact same thing that doesn't look like anything, but they make it legit and say, yeah, this is a petroglyph from this time and time. They gotta apply the same thing over here. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They're finding these things over here. All right. So again, make sure to pause it. And for the patrons, you're gonna be able to read this later on when I upload it. So he's comparing some stuff here. Ship from East Africa trading ship, and then comparison with a mosaic showing Roman ship. All right. All right, I'm trying to go slow so you guys can pause it and stuff. And then it says here the Gaelic John petroglyph, Oklahoma Panhandle. All right, so the ship, and it even has some Gaelic on it. Gaelic. Okay, the ship with the billowing sails, and she writes the description here, and it's a photograph of ship with the billowing sails petroglyph. All right, that's what it looks like. You know, how do you decipher that? Wow, I mean, you got a drawing of ship with the billowing sails, comparison from a Minoan seal. Look at that, almost exactly the same. Look at that. The ship with two sails. All right, and there's another one. The ship with two sails, Petroglyphs, Oklahoma. So again, guys, we had ships. We were navigating. We were going over there. Yes, ancient Americans. We've broken this down in so many ways. The ship with everything petroglyph, Western Oklahoma. All right. The twins in a boat, petroglyph, Western Oklahoma. This is what she's naming them, right? But this is what she's telling you she's finding and interpreting. The emblem ship says here, the ship with a mariner, petroglyph, Western Oklahoma. Right? And then we got this one right here. Photograph left drawn, emblem of ship petroglyph, Baca County, Southern Colorado. Southern Colorado. Look at that, a ship right on the rock. Right on the rock. This is stylized version of the ship used on the seal of the Epigraphic Society. So they, you know, they put it as part of their logo. This is a comparison with a Portuguese coin. Looks almost exactly the same. All right, and then it goes on to the Arkansas River has in the height of Colorado, talking about the ships of Hackling Springs. Hackling Springs. The ships with the footprints. This is in Hackling Springs, yep, Colorado. Then we got petroglyphs of ships in Sweden. Same thing. Look. So why is this seen as legit, but not this one in America? Right? And then we got redrawn from Winkler, ship petroglyph. Oh, this is from Egypt. So she's showing comparisons, right? Like they accept all these, but they won't accept the American ones, right? It's pseudo when you show the American ones, right? Then you got the Trident ship, right? From Hickling Springs, Colorado. And then we got a comparison with petroglyph of Norway and a Minoan seal, right? You see? Just like the one in Colorado. All right, let me go a little slower, sorry. That way you guys can pause it and read it. We got here in Colorado, again, Hickling Springs, and another one in Egypt. Which one looks better, guys? The one in Colorado, right? And then we got the Galley of Some Petroglyphs, Hickling Springs, Colorado, and comparing it to a Phoenician city of Aratus. Look at that. The dragon ship petroglyphs, Hickling Slide, Colorado, and one in Egypt. Look at that. Look at how ugly the one in Egypt looks too. But hey, they accept that one, and they say it's a chip. So like a Phoenician ship with the dragon head, right? The dragon ship from Colorado, a Dracan ship from Colorado. Come on now. Come on now. Okay. Yeah, connected ships. Look at that. From Smith Canyon, Colorado. Yeah. And we got the ship of Tarshish. Okay, and again, positive. You want to read it. And here's another one, ship Petroglyph in Arizona. And even got the ocean or water, I guess, on it. Okay, and then we got the vernal ship Petroglyph, Vernal, Utah, redrawn from Trajan by Dale Murphy. Comparison to a 5th century BC merchantman, Tanquinia. Okay. Says here the California ships. All right. 3 ship images, Owens Valley, California, redrawn from photographs by Polanski. Okay. All right. The ships and the eye. The ship and the eye petroglyph, Mud Creek, Colorado. Mud Creek, Colorado. All right. So this is where actually chapter 2 ends in this book. That's the last page. So basically what she wanted to point out in part 1, why she's doing this, what, you know, her background and everything. And obviously if we're finding so-called old world things here and you know, they had to have gone over there to bring this language and all that knowledge and all this civilization over there. So they needed ships. So she wanted to point this out in chapter 2 of this book. So I hope that you guys, if you're not, you know, in the Patreon, you can take the time to go ahead and pause the video and read all that stuff. We're definitely going to get back into the other book and finish the chapter and all the rest of the chapters and all the rest of the chapters and many books we're reading, guys. We got infinite amount of information. As long as the internet is here, you know, I'm going to keep doing it. All right. I want to say, you know, thank you to everybody that tuned in today. I hope you guys found this interesting. And again, we're scratching the surface today with this information here, just reminding everybody we are the ancient navigators, the real ancient navigator, who's the so-called Phoenicians, you know. And yeah, there's so much more to learn and study. Okay. And, you know, now it's literally in plain sight. It's literally in plain sight, guys. We were just, you know, brainwashed and blinded. So we weren't looking in the right places. Okay. Old world records in ancient America. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You know, I know probably a lot of you like, it's over. Hey, obrigado. Obrigado, minha primo. My cuz. Hey, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the moderators. Thanks for guys keeping it respectful, for the ones who did, for dealing with the trolls that came through. I didn't even see any. I'm glad I didn't, because you know I get triggered. But we're gonna definitely let me see a second here. I'm gonna go out with another song here. My boy Robin Dre. Where's Robin Dre beats? Hold on, guys. Where'd my music go? Where my music go? Where my music go? This song is called Everlasting, because we everlasting. Shout out to Robin Dre Beats. Robin Dre, bye. Much love and respect, my family. Pura vida, mi gente. Awa, awa. Thank you. Thank you. Be blessed. Have a blessed night, guys. Wow.